Well, we weren't gonna wait until the Western Conference Finals ended. Figured, we were watching this ass whooping, and we were like, "All right, let's just start this." Matt Issa, first time here. For people who don't know, we used to work together at basketballnews.com. Uh, the iteration where it had like funding for a
Mhm.
brief period until it didn't, with Alex Kennedy and Spencer Davies predominantly running the show. So we are here, Matt. Good to have you. You've been watching this very closely. Oklahoma City, at the time we're recording live, is beating shit out of Minnesota in the Western Conference Finals. 4 games to one is it looks like this is going to end unless there's a 35-point comeback in the time we're talking about this. But Matt, one, welcome, and two, what are your main takeaways from this series, given that Oklahoma City just pretty much dominated outside of maybe a game or two?
Yeah, I gotta say, first off, have you ever seen? You're a pretty cultured dude, right?
Sure.
Have you ever
Yeah.
seen True Detective?
Not fully.
Okay,
I've seen a
since this is
couple, like
one.
I've seen it in passing here and there, but
Okay,
that
you
one is
familiar with like the time is a flat circle kind of
yes, yes.
quote? I just
Yeah.
gotta say, like this morning when you posted like the social media promo and like my face was already on like the thing, and I was like, I was kind of tripping out at first. I'm like, did I already record this podcast? Like, does this already happen? Like, everything that has happened will happen and
You
continue to
asked me
happen.
where I got it from, and I
Yeah,
was
I was
like,
gonna.
Some pod you were on." You know
Yeah, I
what
was
I
like, man, that's cool that people can find me on the internet. I was like, I'm starting to make it out there, you know? People,
Well,
pe
it's not always the coolest thing. Just sometimes,
the
it also
AI generate
depends.
me.
You and I are in the generation now where it's like, you a lot of shit you do has been on the internet.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
people don't understand takes can evolve with new information, even
yeah.
day to day, if you're
Mhm.
nuanced enough. And people think that you have to be married to some of the shit you say a month ago or so. Like me, who said Thunder in six, and I gave Minnesota too much credit. And I was somebody who was saying we probably gave Minnesota too much credit. Where do you stand on that, by the way?
Yeah, I had Thunder in 6 too. I was in the same boat as you. I thought, Minnesota is they're a physical team, they're deep. They have 8 guys they can really trust, and then Terrence Shannon Jr. just kinda came out and gave them some good minutes, although you did see the inconsistencies, and you could understand why Chris Finch didn't have him in the rotation up until when he inserted him in game 3. But yeah, I was a proponent, especially after how flawed the Thunder kinda looked against the Denver Nuggets. Mainly like, Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren not really looking the part of a second and third option on a championship team. But that's kind of where I want to start because they definitely answered all those questions. I think Jalen Williams, like people were, you want to talk about tweets, right? That have aged poorly. I had a tweet in November. I was watching, and Jalen Williams just looked so good in this game, and I was like, man, like he's pretty similar player to Jason Tatum, right? Like physically, similar profile, really versatile defender, can create for himself and others, get to the rim, shaky shooter, but has that pull-up game. I just said something like, because Jason Tatum was this is right around the time when Jason Tatum was doing the thing where he was like trying to imitate all of the all-time great moments in sports history.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and I'm not on TikTok or anything, so I don't know what's going on TikTok and
You
what
don't
Jalen
need to be.
Williams, yeah, and what Jalen Williams was doing on TikTok and stuff. So I just tweeted out, I'm like, Jalen Williams could be like a less corny version of Jason Tatum someday, right? That's all I said, okay? And so like that tweet just aged like spilled milk. Jalen Williams had that video of him like dancing with the other OKC players, and he just looked incredibly corny in it, like way more corny than Jason Tatum ever has. And after game 6 against the Denver Nuggets, when he just played terribly, probably his worst game of the postseason, just did not look ready for the moment at all. And he had been having a pretty shaky series up until that point. I was getting a lot of flack, and I was starting to reconsider. I'm like, okay, so you might have, over indexed on a good regular season. You didn't have the playoff sample size yet, this, and that. And then since then, game 7 played great. Very good in games 1 and 2. Game 3, everybody was bad for OKC. Game 4 played really well, scored 34 points. Tonight didn't have to do as much, but again, just making plays on the defensive side of the ball, in the gaps, switching on guys, being strong, being physical, giving Julius Randle a hard time. Like for me, he's a legit number 2 option on a championship team now, right? Like you could put him on a like you could put him next to I don't know, Giannis. If he's the second best player on that team, they could win a
Mm.
championship. You put him next to Jokic and he's your second best player, they could probably win a championship. Um Doncic, right? Curry, well, maybe not this version of Curry, but like prime Curry, right? Like those guys, the guys who are best option on a championship team, like he could be their second fiddle, and he's ready to go. So I think that's the big takeaway there. And then Chet Holmgren just rising to the occasion, being physical was huge. The thing, like these last couple games, like Minnesota has just they have not been killing them on the offensive glass the way Denver was. I thought they were going to do the exact same thing. I thought it was going to be, Gobert, Randall, Nas, Jalen McDaniels, just Jaden, excuse me, crashing the glass, getting putbacks, right? And that's what was going to keep them in the game. And they did have a big game 4 offensive rebounding wise, but OKC was even better. So just like seeing that, and that was like their biggest weakness, right? About this team, the problem, especially a lot of like old heads have with this team, right? Is they're not like traditionally physical team. It's all these like, fast twitch, lanky kind of guys, right? Gangly armed fellows, right? And they've made up for it with effort and intensity. They're rebounding the ball really well. They're winning the possession game. So yeah, I think those are the big things. They proved they're physical enough to hang in the playoffs. Chet Holmgren proved he's ready. Jalen Williams proved he's ready. So those are kind of like the big picture stuff. Other than the fact that they're just really, really damn good.
I don't think the Tatum thing is that crazy.
It's not. It's really not. Jalen Williams is a stud, man. He's a stud. Like
Yeah, like I
I could get
don't.
in a lot of trouble right now for naming some guys I have Jalen Williams over, but I'm not going
Oh,
to do it.
no, yeah, you have to now. Okay. What's one that you think would get you in trouble?
Well, I
Nobody's
mean,
watching.
obviously
Nobody's watching this. Nobody
the
cares.
easy one is like Jalen Williams is like pretty clearly better than Paolo Banchero, like by a significant margin.
Significant margin.
Yeah.
See, I think this is right here. So this is one that would be debated because not by me necessarily. I think I'm with
Mhm,
you, but Paolo
mhm.
Banchero, I would still say he has a higher ceiling. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
sure.
I would also say number one option Jalen Williams. I don't know what that looks like, and Paolo has to kind of overcompensate for a team that has no real creation outside of
Franz.
himself and Franz. And Jalen Suggs was hurt
Mhm.
for a lot of the year. I think Jalen Suggs could have made them a 50-win team.
Yeah.
And also just general health, like not just Jalen Suggs alone, but he was out for the longest.
Hmm.
That's an interesting one. I don't know what Jalen Williams' number one option does look like. I do get the sense like he looks awesome as a number 2, but I would worry about him a little bit as a number 1,
My
you
thing
know?
is I'll always take like a great number 2 over like a shaky number 1. And I think Paolo's kind of like a shaky number 1. He's always going to have, well, for now he's, a jump shot, defensive question marks, right? Questionable decision making at times. I think Paolo's like done a good job of really improving himself as a basketball player. But yeah, that's just one. Like I got like
I
I mean Jalen
I do
Williams is
have
like a top
questions. I
he's
do
like a
have
top 20
questions.
player in the world for me right now. Like like I think he's
Bill
one of the
S
20 best.
Bill Simmons had him like 15th.
Yeah, well, Bill Simmons is just like I was looking at his top 15 and I'm like, man, is it convenient that like 6 of the top 15 players are playing in the conference finals right now? Like
Yeah.
there's no recency bias here. We just are, it's just that it's just convenient, you know?
But to be fair, I also looked at the top 15 and I was like, "You know what? This isn't that crazy."
No, it's not it wasn't bad. It
No.
wasn't bad. It
Um,
wasn't bad.
this
I
isn't
don't
that
think
crazy.
Carl Anthony Towns should have been in the top 15. I think if he makes
I
that
agree
list,
with that.
if he
I
makes the list
really agree. That's the
before
one where I
game
was like,
3,
"Towns? Come on."
if he makes the list before game 3 against the Pacers, Towns is nowhere to be seen. But Towns, like, he has this incredible game 3, Towns actualized version, the guy we've always kind of wanted him to be. Then he's like, yeah, he's a top 15 player. My favorite Bill Simmons thing is like there was this one time a couple of years ago. This is before Jason Tatum really burst on to like, top 5, top 7 player in the world, like perennial all NBA guy, right? This is right when he's starting to get on the precipice, like he's like maybe like a borderline top 10 guy. And Bill Simmons is like, Jason Tatum's a top 5 guy for me. And Ryan Russell looks at him, he's like, dude, you got like 17 guys in your top 5 right now. And that was like an all-timer because that was the thing with Bill, like it's not so much that he's just like wrong about stuff. It's just so much that he resembles like the casual basketball fan, right? Like the guy who like watches, never see him have a notebook and a pencil and never see him clipping stuff or spending time on cleaning the glass. He loves the game, but like doesn't ever actually like put it relative to everything else. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like this guy is an all-star. This guy's an all-star. And then you end up with like 42 all-stars where it's like not everybody can be an all-star, unfortunately. As much talent as we have, as many beautiful players as there are, yeah, it's not possible.
I don't think it's that, but I don't. But I like Bill, so we don't have to get into the whole Bill conversation.
I love Bill. He's one of the reasons I do what I do. So
I mean, I think he's influenced a lot of people. Let me go back to Jalen Williams.
Yeah, good call.
Would you take him over Cade Cunningham right now?
I have a very nice relationship with the Pistons PR department.
So just say no. You could just say no. It's fine.
I wouldn't take Cade over Jalen Williams. I'm not saying
you would not take Cade over Jalen Williams.
I'm not saying that Cade's worse than Jalen Williams.
Okay.
I'm just saying I wouldn't take him.
Would you take Jalen Williams over Karl-Anthony Towns as a number 2 option?
No. Just the defensive versatility. He can't get hunted and stuff. Cats, obviously, he's got his limitations as a defender. You got to build a very specific team around him, whereas Jalen Williams kind of like...
So you'd rather have Jalen Williams over Towns?
Yes.
Okay. That one I'm with you because you probably don't get stupid fouls. Would you take Jalen Williams over this version of Kawhi Leonard?
No.
That's interesting.
Kawhi looks sick, man. He looks sick.
He does.
When he was playing, I was thinking about it. I'm like, man, if that Clippers team could just won that Game 7, like they would have done the same thing the Nuggets. I think they would have given them everything they could.
They were the favorite. They were everyone's darling. Like they're the number 2 and can push the Thunder the most. I was
a champion of that. I was a champion of that. There's articles in late January with my byline on it. Saying the Clippers late January. I'm saying this is the second most dangerous team in the world. Excuse me, not late, like early February, right after they got.
No, but that's still early. A lot of people didn't get there till May, almost.
Yeah. I was like, this team, man, like they have the perfect recipe for just being a menace. And of course, they run into Nikola Jokic, and Aaron Gordon, and Aaron Gordon's reflexes are just so incredible that he's able to dunk the ball with 0.0001 second left, whatever. But no, I'd still take Kawhi.
Jalen Williams or Jaylen Brown?
Williams. You want to talk about guy? There's a guy.
No,
I would take.
You really like Jalen Williams.
I would take a lot of dudes over Jaylen Brown.
All right, so Jimmy Butler. Current Jimmy Butler.
I'm gonna go Jalen Williams.
Okay, I agree. I would have gone.
Close though.
I would have gone Jimmy Butler pre lost my joy, pre I'm gonna tank.
Oh yeah. No, I wish we could have.
He's also older now, so
I wish we could have seen Jimmy Butler without Curry, and no glute injury. I want to know how much that was affecting him. You know what I mean? Like,
well, look, he fell on his ass really hard when he was even with the Heat, and he missed like a couple weeks, if I recall correctly, with a tailbone injury, which is basically he broke his ass. Like he just landed really hard on his ass, and he just didn't play for 2 weeks. Like I've joked in the past, no one falls on their ass harder than Jimmy Butler because he jumps so high for certain rebounds, and then he just doesn't know how to break his fall. He has no WWE training. Would you take Jalen Williams or Jaren Jackson Jr.?
Jalen Williams. I love Jaren Jackson Jr.
Yeah.
I will say this, just to put into perspective, every guy we've named, I would take over Jaylen Brown. Like every single one of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Why don't you like Jaylen Brown much?
I think he's a great guy. I think he's well educated. I think he's very involved in the Boston community.
You're gonna swipe the shit out of him.
He's muscular and handsome. Like he's everything you could be in life. But he's
Finals MVP.
He really. I don't buy that. He's in a very, very. very specific role on the Boston. I think next year we're really going to see what Jaylen Brown's all about because, first of all, like during that run, right? It's like, other than the Knicks, okay, their opponents the last 6 playoff series they played in, right? Barely anyone has like a big enough body to hang with Tatum, right? And you're always going to put your best guy on Tatum, okay? And
Sure.
then so it's like Brown kind of just gets like the whatever guy, you know? He has to deal with the second best perimeter wing defender that a team has, which is usually not that great, right? And so he can bully them, bulldoze them, do whatever he pleases against them. And then on defense, I think the Celtics do a really good job of playing to his strengths, which is isolation defense. So I think he's a really good isolation scorer, really good isolation defender, but he doesn't really do any of the other things well. He's not a great spacer, not a great passer, not a great off-ball defender, doesn't do much rim protection, right? So I'm just like, it doesn't do it for me. I think he's in a very, very good situation with Boston, with
Uh-huh.
Tatum, White, Drew Holiday, Al Horford, all those pieces around him. And I'm curious to see what it looks like next year when, that's going to be a very different team.
If I were a bored, lacking nuance, have nothing else better to do all day YouTube commenter, I would ask you, what's the difference between him and Jalen Williams playing next to SGA while on the Oklahoma City Thunder defense? And to that, you say what?
Well, it's just like, I mean, think about it. He played center for part of the year. Like he was guarding centers, right? He's
Because
just like, just watch.
Chet Holmgren, as Bomani Jones would put it, is tall man, not
Yeah.
big man.
Yes, exactly. But Mike Jones is awesome, by the way.
Yeah,
Um,
it's one of my favorites.
but no, that's exactly like that. He's just a very versatile defender. He just does so many different things. Like he's quick passer, ball mover, can screen, go screen. Um, Good shooter up until this year. This year the jumper's been shaky, but he does everything. He's like a jack of all trades, and that just for me it immediately pops as like a second option.
Would you take him over Evan Mobley?
Who? Jalen Williams?
Yes.
Yeah, right now. But I mean, Evan Mobley's got the higher ceiling than me. I think he's gonna creep up there soon.
Okay, I think I'm good on names.
Okay.
I think I'm good on names for now. I think he's great.
Mhm.
I think if he's not a top, I mean, he is a top 15 player by definition of getting all NBA. All NBA was, I think, a little surprising to some people, but it's like when your team wins 80 million times during the regular season, and Jalen Williams is as good of a two-way player as he's been. And also, like, given the position, like he was one of the best guys, two-way guys at his position, has
Mhm.
been.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy. I didn't think he would be this coming out of college. I thought he would be good. I didn't think he'd be
Mhm.
quite this. And Chet Holmgren, and you talked about him rising. I still feel a little bit shaky about him at times, but I think he's in the perfect situation because he doesn't always have to be the quote unquote third guy. There are a lot of great wing and guard defenders, perimeter defenders in general around him. Also, Isaiah Hartenstein there. Like he's in the greatest situation he could be in to like just sort of grow. Where it's like, I don't think a bad Chet Holmgren performance will absolutely sink them based like depending on what else happens around them.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I think the Thunder are going to win the title. That's where I'm at. I know that's not breaking news. They're heavily favored. But even after, I know the Denver series, it was kind of cliche, but everyone was like, the winner of this is probably going to win the title. Although if Denver won, I wasn't as sure about that.
I think
This
the
is
Timberwolves would beat them just because styles don't fight,
probably,
and they that's their kryptonite. But yeah.
yeah. I mean, for whatever not for whatever reason, because Jokic, Matt Morris talked to me about this. They just figure out ways to bother Jokic that nobody else can, and it's
Mhm.
not Rudy specific, although he helps in that regard. But he doesn't shut down Jokic. It's the team, like the way they can sort of just bother the shit out of him with length and Jaden McDaniels, for
Mhm.
example. Like, but I didn't. I was down on Minnesota going into this series. And I feel like I should have been more down on them because I still had them winning 2 games. Like to me, this was just, are the role players going to hit enough shots consistently? They actually did a couple of games,
Mhm.
like twice, literally twice. And they lost one of those games and they won the other one emphatically. And coming into this, or now coming away from this, I'm looking at this like back to my original thought where I entered the series and I said they didn't play a center in either round. Lakers or Warriors. And on top of that, the Warriors didn't have Stephen Curry. Not to question and just sort of like, oh, demean Minnesota, but like I'm kind of looking at them a little sideways. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think you are. I think Minnesota is
I think
of
they're
the four
good.
teams remaining.
I
Of the
think
four
they're
teams
good.
remaining, they were the second best team.
I think they're good, but this is more so a Golden State question because I think the Lakers, I just had that one wrong. The Lakers didn't have a center. If they got Mark Williams, I don't know how much of a difference he would have made. But if Steph is healthy, there are a good amount of people I think would have picked. Zach will even said this. There are a good amount of people who would have picked Golden State to win. Maybe that's like a little too legacy driven because of Steph, because of Jimmy. I think Golden State probably beats them if
I
Steph is there.
disagree. I disagree because we just saw that series before. Houston. Houston's kind of like baby Minnesota to me right now, right? They have this tenacious defense, really physical, size, deep, right? But they're just like they don't have the half court offense. Like Jalen Green's like baby Anthony Edwards, right? He's baby Anthony Edwards. Um, Fred VanVleet is actually better than Mike Conley. I don't know where I was going with that, but like they don't have the shooters. They don't have the shooters, right? That
Houston,
Minnesota
no.
had. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like it was like for me, it was like the same problems that Houston gave you that pushed you to the brink. Plus, you have like a legitimate half court offense. Okay, and I'll say this in Minnesota's favor. And I should have run the numbers before we got on here, right? But heading into Game 3, I haven't run them since the Game 3s of the conference finals. Right, I've been tracking role player 3-point shooting, regular season versus postseason. Like, because as we know, role players hitting shots is huge in the postseason
McDaniels
because
has made a big jump in that.
right? Okay, McDaniels has, but so role player shooting is important because teams tend to load up on stars, force them to kick the ball out to role players. They're the role players to beat you, right? Minnesota, of the 16 playoff teams heading into this postseason, had the second highest role player 3-point percentage. They were around 39%. Okay. When I last ran the numbers, again, this is before the Game 3 onslaught, and then Game 4 they shot the ball well, but tonight they didn't, so it'll regress down a little bit. They're around 34%, which was the biggest drop off of any team that made the second round. So they were actually getting kind of a bad bounce with that, right? On the flip side, Indiana's like the best team in the playoffs in terms of role player 3-point shooting jump. Like they were like a 35% 3-point shooting
They have
team
the
in the regular
best
season.
effective field goal percentage like ever, or some
Yeah,
crazy
and
shit. Like it's ridiculous. Or
hitting
effective
shots,
field goal
right?
percentage above expected.
Yeah,
Not literally, but I mean, regardless, Indiana's like they're a machine offensively.
they're just hitting shots,
I
right?
get it.
Yeah,
I just think
I
I think with Steph's gravity, I think makes a big difference because Jimmy
mm,
Butler as a number 2 option. Like, look, I don't think it's an easy win, but
mm,
I have more. I leave with more questions about Minnesota, and now I have more questions about Minnesota's long term or I guess short term future because there's a Julius Randle contract question. Rudy Gobert has an extension that's going to kick in. And it's going to take up a good percentage of their cap. Not to get into a whole Minnesota like deep dive or whatever, but I have you've been to 2 conference finals and it's like, all right, are they going to make the jump? Or because the Western Conference is so good, you can't really guarantee certain things, especially when Houston's going to be in the market for somebody. Denver, I mean, maybe now they actually like shake up their roster a little bit.
mm,
Golden State's obviously going to try to remain competitive. Maybe they get a center. The Lakers will absolutely get at least one center. There's, people want them to get Jared Allen. People want them to call about, whomever. I was talking to a Knick fan today who was like, yo, do you think the Lakers would trade for Mitchell Robinson? And I was like, well, actually, that doesn't sound too crazy to me. But there's like a lot of teams are going to get better. And with Minnesota, I have questions about like how this is going to go, but I don't know. I don't think them beating Golden State was an absolute given. I do think they would have been favored in that series, though. They were.
yeah. I
I
think
mean,
they were
they
favored. Yeah,
were
they
when
were
Steph
favored. Yeah.
Curry. Yeah, they were. Steph Curry was, and they won game 1. Steph Curry gave them what he gave them before, and he looked really good. Was
Mhm.
that sustainable? I mean, I don't know. I don't know, but I leave with some questions about Minnesota. Here is where I'm at.
I kind of like them long term. I think they've set themselves up well. I think I trust the front office. First of all, they made a great trade, which in hindsight looked kind of in the moment looked kind of funky, right? With bringing in DiVincenzo, Randall. I'm like, what are you really trying to do here? You got deeper, but did you really get better? That's worked. I think Randall is a better fit alongside Edwards than Carl Anthony Towns, and Carl Anthony Towns is a better fit alongside Brunson um, than Julius Randall was. I know you have to get Julius Randle on a fair deal, right? Try to figure that out. But I think they have a good blend of like just good veterans around Anthony Edwards, who are battle tested but not too old, and Naz Reid, Nikhil. Hopefully, you keep both of them. Jalen McDaniels, Gobert's still under contract, right? Dante DiVincenzo's under a good contract. And
Yeah.
then Conley. So the goal here is now, I think I look at their three guys, their three young guys this year who really popped for me when they were all injured and they all got playing time, right? Was Terrence Shannon Jr., who we got to see a good bit in the series now. He's still raw, but that guy can get to the rim.
No,
He's
he's going to
strong.
be good. He should have been
He's going to be
drafted
good.
higher too. Like a
Yeah,
lot,
he
a
can
lot of draft
shoot.
people would say he should have been drafted higher than he was, but there were
He was a
reasons for
great
that.
shooter in college. Good free throw shooter. He was defending OKC's best offensive player whenever he was on the floor. I like him. So can he turn into a solid rotation guy? And then Jalen Clark, like say you lose Nikhil Alexander Walker, I could see Jalen Clark being the next Nikhil Alexander Walker. That guy was giving Shea a very, very hard time when they played each other in the regular season. He guarded Shea the best I've seen anyone in the last 2 years, other than Max Christie guarded Shea. I don't know why Max Christie's defense on him sticks to me, but he was dude. You got to go back and watch a Max Christie on Shea films. That guy
I
has
like Christie.
yeah.
I like Christie. All right.
And then the last before, sorry about that, but the
No,
last
no,
one
no.
is
Yeah.
the hope is that, and this is what Minnesota made when they traded that pick to the Spurs, right? Was Rob Dillingham's got to be able to kind of morph into the new Mike Conley,
Something.
right? Yeah. So,
Something. He
but
needs
I
to
think
be something.
they have a nice blend there. I think they have a nice blend of veterans, and then the other big thing is Anthony Edwards just gotta take that next step. Like right now, he's like a fringe top 10 player. He's got to vault himself into like the top 5 realm. But I still think Minnesota's in a good spot.
We have the contracts on the screen. This is
Mhm.
courtesy of Spotrac. Rudy Gobert is taking up 22.6% of the cap next year. He'll be making 35 million. So his number is going to go down because he's making 43 this year, but that's the extension. And Rudy Gobert is technically aging. So obviously he was going to take a little bit less because he's not where he was when he was a 4-time defensive player of the year. I don't think he deserved all 4, but that's a discussion for another day. Anthony Edwards is taking up 30% of the cap. He's Anthony Edwards. So duh. This is Julius Randle's player option, 30 million. I don't think he's gonna take that, but we'll see because not a lot of teams have money. And that's a tough one. Is what I'll say there. Like I don't know what is that gonna become. I do recall after a year with the Pelicans where he signed with the Knicks for like 3 years and 66 million with a team option. He's gonna get more than that. Probably a lot more. Jaden McDaniels, as you mentioned, his extension has already started. 20. I didn't realize he was going to make 25 million next year. That's kind of crazy.
He's worth every penny.
He kind of deserves it though, right? Like
Yeah, he's worth every penny.
So he's one of their biggest ceiling raisers, I think. Like if I want to be optimistic about Minnesota's future, I'm looking at their playoff run and I'm like, oh, Jaden McDaniels showed he can be like a number 3, I guess, if we want to say that, but also defend at a very high level, like a very high level, defend multiple positions effectively. His advanced numbers are really good during the playoffs as well. And I think there's some validity to that as much as I'm like, hey, they didn't play a single center until this round. But I don't think that applies to Jaden McDaniels as much as it would apply to, no disrespect, Julius Randle. Naz Reid is a question mark. This is a player option for 15 million. He feels like, no information, although I can get some. He feels like someone that Sean Marks would be like, you know what? I have cap space and we're trying to be young, but we need people to score. Naz Reid is from Jersey, Jelly Fam, like all these different things. I wonder if Naz Reid gets a contract somewhere else. And if I'm Minnesota, am I really going to overpay Naz Reid? Am I really going to do that? Is it going to be Naz Reid or Julius Randle? Is another question. Because from a front office standpoint, you could look at, well, Julius Randle's multiple-time All-NBA. He's a better player. He's an all-star. He's been an all-star. But Naz Reid would be cheaper. And they made the Karl Anthony Towns trade, among other reasons, to cut some measure of long-term salary. because Julius Randle is an expiring contract, and Dante DiVincenzo just has like a equivalent of a mid-level exception in terms of his money. You see here, he's like
Great
12
deal.
million. Right. And it's like I don't know what they're going to do, but they've already told us after a Western Conference Finals bid previously, like, yeah, we're also trying to save money. And a lot of owners are, because one, that's what billionaires do. That's how they become billionaires. One of the reasons. And then two, that second apron is scary as shit. So like everyone's trying to avoid it, and I do wonder if it's going to become a Naz Reid or Julius Randle thing. And if that's the case, I'm not so sure that they're going to pick Julius Randle, depending on what Julius Randle wants.
Yeah, I mean, there was a part, I think the last 2 months, Julius Randle really became like the kind of guy they needed him to be. But like for most of the season, like if you would ask me that question, I'd be like, yeah, I mean, honestly, some people would say Naz Reid's a better player right now. But yeah, I mean, that's a tricky one. I still think I think Randall likes it there, it seems like. I think the market has made it such that he can't go and there's no max for him. Nobody's gonna give him a max contract, right? So I mean,
No.
I think getting above like a high end starter level contract will be good enough for him.
So something
Um,
similar to what he has now, I guess, would be the
yeah,
equivalent of that. I mean,
inflation adjusted, yeah. Again, I haven't looked through their books very intricately, and even if I did, I don't know how much sense I could make of it. So I'm not like a camp expert, but
it's different because like now you have to be wary of just the aprons, like just because you could be, it's a hard cap essentially. The second apron is, but
mhm.
also there's like if you're above this number but you're below the first apron, then you have access to like your biannual exception, and you have like all these different
Here
boring
I got
CBA shit that
I
a
got
lot of
something for
people.
you right here.
Oh, please
So
do.
I have a formula that I made, right, that's like decent at kind of explaining, like predicting like estimated player value based on production, right? And so next season a win is worth like $3.8 million, right? And so if Julius Randle plays at the level he did this year, in theory, he'd be worth about $25 million to the Timberwolves. Now again, he missed 13 games, right? He's usually a pretty healthy player. Was playing about 70 plus games a year for the Knicks. So if he played more games, obviously that means he's worth more money. So it's got him about like that range what he's making right now. If that adds any color to it.
He'll be 31 in November.
Mhm.
It's the other piece of it. So you would say in his prime, but I gotta be honest, Matt, I don't know what prime years are anymore, because we're in this era where this should be Ben Simmons' prime right now, and he's done. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
Like this should be Markelle Fultz's prime right now. He's not even in the league. Like
He was on the Kings. He was on the Kings for he played about 12 games this year.
he's
I
gonna
guess
be
the Kings don't even count as in the league anymore. They're like in their own thing.
he's about to be a free agent anyway.
Yeah.
Like, but this is what I'm saying. Like, I don't, and then you have guys like Jimmy Butler, who's like, you know what? I'm gonna play the absolute best I've ever played at 33 years old.
It's like, yeah, I don't know, man.
Like,
It's a weird world.
it's
Technology.
ridiculous.
We
Just
were
to
talking
finish,
about technology before. Oh, well, I
just
guess we were live when we were talking about it. Never mind. I forget how.
this is just to finish up on the cap stuff. Mike Conley, 10 million. Their books are not terrible compared to
Yeah,
like
they
they're
really cleaned it up with the
they're
Towns.
not
The Towns thing.
spooky. Yeah, the town stuff really clean. Like that's listen, and the NBA is a business, basketball's a
Mhm.
business. Like these things sort of matter. Not sort of, they do. And then you mentioned Terrence Shannon Jr. If they can get Terrence Shannon Jr., this is always a cheat code. If you can get Terrence Shannon Jr. to perform on this contract, like if he comes back and we all expect him now to be better, it's like you were good in the playoffs as a rookie. Typically, you come back and you're a better player as a sophomore. Not all the time, but that's what you would think happens. That will be a cheat code for them. So I think they'll be fine, but I still have some questions about how the rest of the conference is going to combat that. Any final thoughts on the Timberwolves before we swing it back to the Thunder?
They should be proud of this season. I think they should really be proud of being able, with everything they've gone through with the trade and the slow start, and then being it was a 6 seed, to be in the Western Conference Finals, to come within 3 games of going to the NBA Finals for the first time in franchise history. I think it's commendable.
I agree with that. even though I have questions about whether or not they would have gotten here if certain guys were healthy or certain teams have centers. Oklahoma City, look, this is not fair. This is just not fair at all. I don't know what this ad is. Next year, you still have Chet Holmgren on his rookie contract because, of course. This is the cheat code, by the way, of NBA team building is just like drafting quarterbacks in football.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
If you can get quarterbacks to be really good on their rookie contract, you can have a window that's like right now. This is how the Seahawks did it with Russell Wilson. Is one of the more famous examples back in the day. The Legion of Boom existed because Russell Wilson didn't have a fat contract. He was a third round pick. Like that was the other piece of it, is he wasn't even drafted high. Shay's contract is not even crazy because look at this. It's taking up 25% of the cap. You will look all across the NBA next year and you'll see guys taking up 30%, 33% because they've been in the league longer. This is Shay's first extension still, you know, and this is going to be like, well, he's going to get the extension next and then it's going to bump up. But, you know, he's going to get it. He's an MVP and he's the best player you've had in God knows how long. Hartenstein, 28.5. That's super interesting. Well, I don't want to do like Thunder contracts given that they're going to go to the finals, but it's just to look at because people are saying like, yeah, this can run for the rest of the decade. And if you're looking at it, it kind of can.
I'll say this. Let me say this one. Okay, because I know it's hard to remember, but last year, okay, we were doing the same thing with the Boston Celtics. Okay. And it was just like, oh, they're bringing back their starting lineup. They're bringing back their 8 best players. Like, who does that?
Point.
Who does that after winning a championship? And I was kind of like, because I'm always like, okay, but how could this go wrong? Because like we always think we know the answers to everything, right? But like, how could this go wrong? And I was like, my prediction was it was going to be the center situation, and it kind of was. Like Kristaps was just not that good in the second round, but obviously the big thing is like Tatum gets hurt, and now it's like they could not like. You want to talk about the end of the decade? There's a chance the Celtics could not be like in the conference finals again for the rest of the decade, right? There's a very real chance. Okay, I'm being serious. And so like with the Thunder, like I get like, yeah, it seems like if you're like not a fan of like super dominant teams and like seeing the same team win over and over again, like it could seem like doom and gloom for you. Like, man, Thunder are going to win this year, and then they're just going to keep getting better and better, and they're young and they have all these guys, and then Kingston Wallace is like Andrew Nembhard, but 3 years before Andrew Nembhard is what he is now. But like I don't know. I just like thinking about like I wouldn't be so quick to say like okay, she's like, you know, next year's going to be even crazier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they could very well be a second round team next year. To be honest,
it's just unprecedented just because of in this era they don't have all their money tied up yet. We've talked about Jalen Williams. He's still on his rookie contract for another year, which is ridiculous. He'll get the extension this summer, but it won't kick in until 2026, 2027.
Yes.
And that should be a max. I mean, he's all NBA too, so it's going to be a big max. That's the other piece of it. Kingston Wallace is still on a very light contract. Kenrich Williams, who I love, is still affordable. I think he's going to be someone that they should keep, but we'll see. Caruso's affordable. Like, it's just ridiculous. Isaiah Joe.
Yeah, he's extended Caruso, right? Yep.
Yeah, he has an extent. Isaiah Joe has a descending contract. Like, what? And they have all those draft. Like, I would use the draft picks, and you're gonna have to trade something at some point. But I would use the draft picks to try to get somebody to run this back. But regardless, we don't have to do Oklahoma City. We don't have to do Oklahoma City cap talk necessarily. Now they're in the finals, and they're minus 750 to win the championship. Like, we don't know who's coming out of the East yet. They're minus 750 right now. I just looked it up. Where are you at with this team from? Because there's been a lot of talk about like historically they're this and they're the best defense of the modern era, and the numbers kind of would suggest that. But where are you at with Oklahoma City right now as we wrap this up and head to the finals?
Yeah, I mean, I would say they're the best defense of the modern era. The thing is, like, so the thing I've like, you know, I've
what's
studied
modern?
Like
to clarify, what's modern? Last 10 years?
Should I be crazy right now and say I can't think of like a better defense since the merger?
The merger.
Yeah, no, like seriously, like the only defense like I can think of right now that like compares them historically is like the 60s Boston Celtics and Bill Russell, right? And that's just like a whole different ball game.
The merger. Hold on, that was 76, right? Yeah, okay.
Let me fact check myself.
So that's that's about 50 years.
Yes.
There's a really good there's the Bulls in there. There's obviously the Pistons. People throw out multiple Pistons teams. People will
Here
probably
we
throw
go.
at
Let's
you.
go. We got I guess yeah, there's the early 2000s Spurs, 2008 Celtics. Those 90s Knicks teams were very, very formidable.
Grizzlies had a run in the early 2010s, early to mid 2010s.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I'm looking through these like all-time
You know what though?
relative defensive ratings, and I'm just like,
I'm not even sure we could compare just because basketball is just a lot different now. And I
yeah,
think for what you're capable of doing in today's NBA, which there's only but so physical you can be, yet they still manage to be very physical, which I appreciate because I think there needs to be some measure of physicality in basketball,
mhm.
not to the point where dudes are elbowing each other in the face because that's MMA, which I'm good with that too. But
Yeah, Big Ten over there.
but I think the level of physicality, the versatility, like somebody posted this today, and it's so true. It's like, you can be switched onto Caruso, and then he goes under a screen, and then all of a sudden you're met with Jalen Williams, and you pass it to your teammate who's being guarded by gilgeous-alexander, and if they drive, they're met with Chet Holmgren. You know what I mean? And then Lou Dort is just about to check into the game. Cason Wallace probably is about to check into the game. He already has 3 steals in 14 minutes. Like, it's just unfair. But again, like, their measure of team building is super impressive. I think they're the best defense in at least 10 years for me. At least. Could be
Yeah,
longer.
yeah.
To you, it's 50 years,
I mean, at least
maybe.
okay, at least the last 2 decades for sure. So I'm looking at the teams with the higher relative defensive rating than them. I got the 2004 Spurs, 64 Celtics, higher relative defensive rating to the league that year, right? So
Oh,
better
for
so
Spurs.
yeah.
That's
So
interesting.
right now in the regular season, the Thunder had a -7 defensive rating relative to the league, right? The teams that are higher, we got Spurs 2004, Celtics 1964, Celtics 2008, Knicks 93, and the Knicks 94,
Hmm.
2020 Milwaukee Bucks. But we kind of learned that was just like a regular season kind of defense thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
2004 Pistons, 2016 Spurs, 2014 Pacers with Paul George, Roy Hibbert, 2005
Really?
Spurs. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And then we got 2 more. It's the 99 Spurs and the 65 Celtics. Okay, so a lot of Bill Russell, a lot of Tim Duncan, some Patrick Ewing. I don't know, like
Yeah.
for me, so back to the general point, right? So you build a great defense one of 3 ways usually. It's elite rim protection, elite defense at the point of attack, elite defensive playmaking, right?
They have all
They
three.
they have all 3. They have all 3. They have all 3. Okay. Rim protection, you got Chet, you got Jalen Williams, you got Isaiah Hartenstein.
Yeah.
Defensive playmaking, like good luck trying to dribble in the gaps. Okay. And then point of attack defense, hey, Lou Dort was literally like built in a lab to defend at the point of attack. That was like he's like a cyborg sent from the future to just like guard people on ball and make it so they can no longer score on the basketball. And then so the thing that really sold it for me though was like, okay, yeah, they have all that, but like, they don't have the physicality. Like they can get exploited on the offensive glass, like against a team that really crashes. Like honestly, like I think if they play the Houston Rockets, like it would probably be a 4-0 sweep, but like all of those games, both teams would score like under 80 points, and it would be like a 5-point game each
Oh, that'd be
game, and it
great.
and it would just come down to like Jalen Green bricking
I
like a 3 for the win.
I love tense, low scoring basketball
Yes,
games.
yes, that's why
Love it.
Rockets Warriors was just beautiful. But
Beautiful. Just beautiful chaos.
but now they're showing me it's like, yeah, we can rebound now too. Like we're good. We can rebound. We'll battle with you. We'll make things hard on you. And then like
Sure.
also like we don't need to do that much rebounding because we're just gonna steal the ball before you take a shot. So I
And
don't.
they score off these turnovers. That's the
Hmm.
other thing. Like, they
Hmm.
don't play around.
Hmm.
This is why the Pacers have been killing the Knicks with some of these transition buckets. But like they that's going to be a fascinating series also
Yeah.
in the finals. We're assuming the Pacers get past the Knicks, but who knows? Pacers will get past them, I think. With Oklahoma City, it's like it's not just the fact that they have the ability to create all these turnovers, although it's that too. But like if I told you, like how many defenders would you say on their team are all defense worthy? Not this season, but just like their
In a
skill sets.
vacuum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Like I think Case and Wallace is going to get
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Jalen Williams is already, I think, all defense level.
Hmm.
SGA,
the way that all defenses voted on sometimes, where they really over-index on steals, yeah, sure, but like, no, I don't think he's like a.
I don't think so
Oh,
either. But I do think if he didn't have to score as much, he could probably
mhm.
get there because that's part of it too. Look, it's very hard to be good at both.
Yeah,
Very hard. Like especially in today's NBA where it's just too fast and everybody's getting hurt. And this is why the season should be 82 games. Lou Dort, no doubt.
yes,
I thought Lou Dort should have been defensive player of the year this year.
okay, that's a take.
Yeah, I legitimately, but they never give it to perimeter.
Yeah,
They just don't. Even though he's built like a tight end and can switch and can like he's ridiculous, but he had one of the best perimeter defensive seasons I've ever seen this
hmm
year. Lou Dort individually, he's ridiculous. I can't wait to watch him in the finals. Also, I think he's going to be very, very important. And obviously Alex Caruso
that's 5 right there, right? We said Chet, right? Yeah,
and Chet. We'll throw in
yeah.
Chet also.
Mhm.
That's another one. I don't think he's there yet, but I think he'll get there.
Oh, I think he's there, dude. The rim protection, like, it's just
You think he's
crazy.
there? Yeah, that's probably
Like the Nuggets could not score when he was on the floor.
the difficult thing is just because like to make it as a center, it's hard because of the other centers.
Hmm
But I do think from a rim protection standpoint, like he'll probably not probably, but he may get defensive player of the year at some point. He actually because he's a big, he has the best shot at defensive player of the year in the
Yeah,
future of all these guys, which is the irony. I don't think he's the best defender here, although he'll probably get up there. I think Lou Dort, if you want to do a pound for pound discussion, it's him. But Alex Caruso obviously is like the OG. And Case and Wallace is the one for me where I'm like, bro, he's one of these guys that I think he could be like perennial all defense.
oh yeah, dude, he's so sick. Like he is, I'm telling you, man. Next Andrew Nemhard. I had to find a way to throw that in a podcast, but I just see it so
Nemhard,
clearly.
that's
Yeah, he's the next
interesting.
Andrew Nemhard.
The common one is Drew Holiday.
Yeah, I mean they kind of all fall from that like school. I guess Casey's stronger, like Drew, but yeah.
I think he's one of those guys like if he's healthy and if he's playing at least 25, 30 minutes a
Mhm,
game, he can make 6, 7 all defensive.
mhm.
Like I think he can be that good defensively. And he doesn't even like he doesn't even start for the
No,
team.
no, no, dude. He's not even like the first guy off the bench most nights. Like,
No.
you know? Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Give me a thought on Thunder Pacers or Thunder Knicks. Like you could do either or.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want to completely
Thunder Pacers
sideswipe.
would
I
be.
don't want to completely sideswipe the Knicks, but I do. I don't
It's gonna
think.
be hard. It's gonna
Yeah,
be hard
I
just
think
because of
they're
how like the Pacers
difficult.
are just so well coached. Like if the Celtics were up 3-1, not saying Joe Mazzulla is a bad coach, but they just have some bad habits that even he with like his his hard nose, his kind of almost diabolical coaching style.
The habits
Like
predate him, to be fair.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they just have like built-in stickiness, right, in
Yes.
their offense, and it can get them in trouble. Um, but they're just so well coached. Like this is one of the I say this all I've been saying this in the last couple of weeks, but this is one of the best coaching jobs I've ever seen. Like Rick Carlisle's done such an incredible job of maximizing. They maximize every single possession. Like they
Yes.
play like a college basketball team with the skill of NBA players, right? They run up and down the court. They defend you full court. They defend sideline out of bounds like they're in high school, right? Where they game plan like on the other team's sideline out of bounds play. They know all of them. They're switching and they're denying the ball and they're just making everything so hard on you. And then everyone on the team is just so at peace with their role, right? They're just fully comfortable with. They don't try to fight the game. They don't try to do too much. Maybe Ben McMatherin does, but that's why he's kind of on a leash with
Yeah.
Carlisle. Um,
Yeah. I think if the GM was like, "Hey, we're gonna send Matherin and somebody else to the package," I think Carlisle would be like, "Okay, fine."
no worries. You want to
Yeah.
do it? You want to do it before the end of the series? But
I like Matherin too, but I don't know if he's a long term. Look, he was good yesterday, although
yeah, he was. He's like Kuminga. He's what Eastern Conference Kuminga with a jumper and probably better biceps. But
and probably I want he might have hands. He seems very comfortable starting shit with people.
oh, you're talking like fighting hands. I'm like,
Yes.
okay, like I mean, like you said might have hands. I'm like, we could do a quick film study. We could figure it out. It's not that hard. Like how good he is at swiping at the ball against steals. But um. So I mean, there's a lot of interesting parts of the series because the Pacers are probably the only team that can match like the Thunder's intensity, their motor, right? And then there's just also this stylistic clash of like, the Thunder love to turn you over, and Halliburton's like, yeah, no, I don't do that. Like I just make the right decision every single time. So
Mhm.
that'll be interesting. Halliburton's like the king of like taking what the defense gives you, making the right decision.
Yes.
But like, what does
Yes.
he do when the defense doesn't give you anything?
Yeah,
That's good.
it's gonna be so fascinating to
It's gonna be
watch.
fun. I think it's gonna be like one of the greatest like 5 game series in NBA history.
5. I think Indy could surprise some people.
They've been surprising me all postseason. Like
Yeah.
they're incapable of losing a game unless it's a game 3. So I don't know. I
Yeah,
really like.
I don't think Indy's gonna win that series,
No.
but I think they can push. I think they can push it to 6. I mean, look, I like them more than I like Minnesota, even though defensively Minnesota's better.
I thought Minnesota was the better team. I think Minnesota had the best chance against them. But another thing is like how good is Pascal against them? Like, can he like keep doing his thing, like where he's like hunting smaller guys and working on the elbow? Is he still going to be able to do that?
That
Um,
turnaround jumper better work from
yeah.
15 feet. And
So
honestly, if he makes them, I think OKC will be like, all right, that's fine.
can
You
Aaron
know,
Nesmith keep hitting like 54% of threes? Like, is that humanly possible?
it's true
How
that it's true. Like, there's a world where they just sweep Indy,
mhm,
where it's a styles make fights thing. And typically in a styles makes fights situation, you have to establish yourself first.
mhm.
And Oklahoma City, I think, could do a better job of that. Like Indy will push, will push, will push, and they don't turn the ball over a ton. But Oklahoma City can use that against you very easily because of all the guys that they have defensively. Like Indy hasn't quite seen that.
Yeah.
And to be fair to Oklahoma City, like Minnesota's not going to play at that same pace that Indy does. And Minnesota probably will shoot even more threes because Indiana, like they take after Tyrese Halliburton, they'll take what they give you. And the reason why I think they're a better matchup for the Knicks than the Celtics are is because Boston gets overly 3-point reliant. And they also fall into the trap of, hey, we're just going to shoot these threes and not actually generate them with
Hmm.
movement and not
Hmm.
actually swing the ball around and create the open three. We're actually going to just dribble into them because we need to get these up. Where India's like, we can go 7 for 22 from 3 and win if we want because we'll get to the rim, we'll get to the line, we'll shoot mid-range jumpers if you give them to us. We're just going to make sure we're doing it fast and we're going 10 deep. Yesterday in game 4, they started off the game 6 of 9 for 3 and then they went 6 of 22 for like the rest of the game up until like the very last few minutes. And the Knicks couldn't get within more than like 5. They took a lead at one point, but it faded very quickly. And every time it looked like they were going to roll ahead, Indiana would like backdoor cut, somebody's open, and all these different tricks. Like, I don't know if all that's going to work against Oklahoma City, even though as much as I like Indy and I want to say they'll push it to 6, maybe even surprise people further. It's hard for me to get there as I'm talking it out.
Yeah, and there's like a guy like TJ McConnell. Like he like specializes in like he's their, he's their heart and soul. Like he brings them this energy, right? He gets the crowd going. Everybody loves him. But like he specializes in like taking advantage of like the little nooks and crannies that he can find, right? Just like the little things, right? So like
Sure.
there's not gonna be any of that. Um, so I don't know. And the Pacers haven't played an elite defense yet. Like the Cavs this year, they slipped, right? They were like the 8th best defense, which is good but not elite.
And they were also banged
Knicks,
up.
yeah, Knicks were, they're middle of the pack. They kind of figured it out a little bit, with the rotating, scrambling, their trio of wings kind of carrying them, but they're not, Brunson and Cat
It
are
was
too easy
very
targets.
unsteady. The Knicks
Yeah,
defense was
and the
unsteady all year.
Bucks were just whatever, right? On defense, fine. They were fine. But so
I
they haven't played an elite defense yet.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma City. Yeah, you're talking me into like probably betting OKC in 5.
What's
Like,
that? What's the money like that on that?
well, that's not available yet
Okay,
because the
yeah, just
Pacers
to
still
see.
have to actually,
In theory,
Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm wrong because I just look. Hold on. Let's pull this up before we get out of here because one book in particular, FanDuel, does have this. This is under the category of, can you see this?
yeah.
Indie, yeah, it's hypothetical. So it's
I
like,
love this.
So let's see. Here we go. Hypothetical series. Bets void if it doesn't occur. OKC is minus 770 against the Pacers. The
Great.
series spread. All right. So OKC, yeah, minus 120, 2.5 games. So this is basically telling us the over-under is 5.5. Yup. Over is plus 108. And correct score would be OKC in 5 plus 210. OKC to sweep plus 320. OKC in 6 plus 410. And in 7 plus 490. The Pacers to win in 7 is plus 1,200, and 6 is plus 1,120, 3,500 and 5, and 5,000 to sweep. What I'll say is injuries determine a lot of these things, unfortunately, because the NBA is a lot like the NFL in that way now because of various different reasons, be it the AAU theory, be it just traveling, games, the level of speed. I think it's a combination of all these different things. Even if we're going to knock on everything possible, even if SGA is out, I still think Oklahoma City can pull this off.
That's a take. I don't know about that one. I don't know.
You love Jalen Williams. How could you not ride with me on this?
He's the perfect number 2. I never said anything about him being the number 1, man. You know what I mean?
Jalen Williams, you would not take him over Tyrese Halliburton. I wouldn't either.
No.
But that supporting cast, as good as Indies is, and as much as I like Indies, I trust that defensive system, if you will.
It would have to be in 7. It would have to be in 7, though.
I hope SGA's. I hope everyone's healthy.
Yeah.
Everybody, even my worst.
By the way, we should say it real quick. We've been very fortunate so far, knock on wood, in the conference finals that nothing's been ruined by injuries.
Knocked on the table again.
Yeah.
Karl-Anthony Towns did have a knee. Well, I don't
know. Shamit took a big fall yesterday.
Yeah.
Talk about big falls.
Nesmith, he's questionable again, but I think Carlisle's like,
might as well scare him a little.
Yeah. I agree. I hope that's the case, and I still think like the Knicks were heading toward beating the Celtics even before Tatum's injury, and Indy was heading towards beating the Cavs. Although the Cavs had Garland, Hunter, and Mobley all impacted, and Donovan's ankle at the end. But Indy's proven that they're more than legit. But yeah, it's OKC's going to beat them in the finals. Now, to be fair, let's do one last thing. Oh, wait, there's no Thunder Knick hypotheticals?
Damn, that one hurts.
That's messed up. I think the Knicks can push that to 6. So I'm a little mildly surprised by that. But, finals exact result, by the way. Thunder to beat the Pacers, minus 330. A week or so ago, this was minus 120 when the Knicks were favored going into the series against Indiana, which I thought was a mistake because Indiana is like, they're a boxer that gets better as the fight goes.
Mm-hmm.
And
I like that.
Yeah, and I think the Knicks have to kind of take you out early.
Yeah.
So the longer this goes, and it's a Tibbs team, and Tibbs in round 3.
How many round 3s does he even have under his belt?
I think just 2. The Bulls 1 year.
Yeah.
And I think that's it.
I guess he was an assistant on the Celtics when they won in 2008.
I do. He was a Knicks assistant too, but I mean, I don't think we're counting those.
He was there.
Well, as a head coach. Yeah, one conference finals. It was the first year he was a head coach with the Chicago Bulls. They won 62 games, and we all know what happened, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Derrick Rose. But I still think Tibbs is a really good coach, but that's another question that Knicks fans have. But that's just I'm going to be on that tomorrow. Thanks for watching. That's Matt Issa. Follow him. He does great work. Matt Issa 15 on Twitter. Sportscasting.com, Forbes, Opta, Analyst, and you have a podcast, Media Pass, right?
Yeah, the Media Pass. Yeah,
Media Pass. Yeah. I will be back tomorrow. New York Post Sports YouTube channel where we're continuing doing watch-alongs for every single Knicks playoff game. Might be our last.